Justice for All. February 5, 2020 by Anna von Reitz. Excerpts from my correspondence this morning. Would it interest you to know that the Kingdom of Manna ousted Kim Goguen in 2017 and that her control of anything related to them is non-consensual? I have the letter from the Kingdom of Manna to prove it. The Vermin used a Pacific Island kingdom to set up a sovereign trust, the Manna World Holdings Trust. Then, because they had computerized access to all the bank's special deposit accounts worldwide, they simply moved all the special, actual deposits of gold, silver, etc. Deposit account records into this sovereign trust, relabeled these accounts legacy trusts and legacy accounts, and put Kim in charge of administering them. But Kim is an AI-controlled eugenics experiment, and they can override her brain at will, tell her what to do and what not to do, and she will do it, because the left half of her brain is largely separated from the right half of her brain, as you can readily determine by doing a brain scan on her. So, while appearing to be a more or less normal woman with independent will and reasoning abilities, she isn't actually a normal woman with independent will and reasoning abilities. She's a tool by which they hope to retain control of the actual assets of the world. Oh, and steal the assets from the rightful trustees and beneficiaries all across the board, while they through Kim, redistribute wealth that doesn't belong to them or her. The attacks on China are indicative of what her controllers are willing to do to non-Caucasian people worldwide. The virus preferentially attacks Asian, Indian, and African males. Whites have the acetylcholinease inhibitor that renders the Nipah virus harmless, but it is deadly for men in the target groups. This was done as retaliation for China inking a trade deal with Trump. Still so sure you want to work with Kim when she came directly out of the group responsible for this attack on China? Knowing that the rats have targeted men throughout China, Africa, and the Indian subcontinent, including many of your friends? How can you stomach that? Come to it, how can you put up with any of this hogwash? As ever, weak-minded men have missed the whole point. They are the targets, and they are still waffling around trying to work with the monsters that have them in the crosshairs and fully intend to kill them. They pay attention to words, not deeds. And they value money, what stands for value, instead of valuing what is value, truth, justice, honor, love, peace, life. Stealing from the poor to give to the rich is not acceptable and must be corrected, but in the same turn, stealing from the rich on the assumption that they have stolen from the poor is wrong, too. Justice demands the same consideration for all people or it delivers justice for none. Isn't it apparent that the enslavement people have suffered on a worldwide basis started because a form of slavery against black people survived the Civil War in America and it proved so profitable for the rats that it spread and was applied to everyone? You have to recognize an evil for what it is, wherever and whenever it appears, and we must all attack it regardless of who the immediate fall guy is, knowing that what evil is allowed to visit others will eventually visit us, too. Given the fact that the coronavirus has been unleashed to destroy the men of China, India and Africa by these Nazi-loving eugenists and considering that Kim is the byproduct of their engineering, too, I don't find your group's excuses for continuing to suck up to her convincing, or helpful to the cause of peace and freedom, unless you all count being dead as being at peace. I think that just about sums it up for everyone who has their head screwed on and who doesn't believe in their commodity, or their cock and bull stories about unimaginable wealth just appearing out of nowhere to back their paper currencies. All they did was to steal their special depositors' actual assets. It's not hard to prove and not hard to see and not hard to explain, either. They are hardened criminals seeking to retain control of other people's assets and to use other people's assets to pay off their own debts to humanity, too. And if you take their sop, you are complicit in their crimes, too. They fully intend to only work with those who will be their suck-ups and have no regard for justice or who actually owns anything. So, once again, as with allowing a form of slavery to continue after the Civil War, you are being invited to allow a form of grossly dishonest banking, controlled by the same old villains, to continue. And, just as the injustice against black people led to them being re-enslaved and to all of us being subjected to the same scheme of enslaving people on paper, you can bet that the injustice of stealing the special deposits will come home not only to the perpetrators, but to those who cooperate with them in this scheme. It will all be known and shouted from the housetops, and every single one of those accounts will be audited. There is either justice for all or justice for none.